the great Steph Curry. Night, night. Thank
you. And night, everybody. Good evening and welcome to Carving Up Live, our night edition, live on YouTube as well as the Gryd Network's X account. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. It's good to be with you. I must say, subdued mood to start the show. I'm going to react to the Warriors who just lost tonight to the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler's return. I was hoping for this to be a celebratory segment for where Jimmy comes home and conquers his old squad in Miami. Get to that in just a moment. What I think the last two games have really said about the Golden State Warriors, who I have, of course, picked to win the NBA championship in 2025. Get to that in just a second. Russell Wilson, this broke a few hours ago, signed with the New York Giants. This essentially means Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers is all but guaranteed, at least if the Steelers have some self-respect. Maybe they can change that. But really, the story to me is not Russell Wilson. It's Shedeur Sanders, who the Giants had the third pick. Now Russell Wilson's a Giant. Jameis Winston's a Giant. Tommy DeVito's still a Giant. What does this mean for Shedeur Sanders? Get to that later on today's show. Arthur Hurst. I can't believe he's never been on the show. That's on me, folks. He's coming on in about 25 minutes to discuss March Madness, men's, women's bracket, the devastating injury, heartbroken for JuJu Watkins, who went down with an ACL tear. She might miss next season as well for USC. Get to that. Duke is dominating the tournament. Shocker. They were my pick. Some potential sleepers in the Sweet 16. There's really not any Cinderella stories in the Sweet 16. We got all the big dogs on tap. Get to that with Arthur. Aaron Rodgers Steelers, talk about Arthur's Lakers. He was not a fan of the Luka Doncic trade when it happened. So you're going to want to stay tuned to see what he has to say about the Lakers' recent troubles. Get to that in about 25. At the end of today's show, baseball season starts this week, ladies and gentlemen. March is one of the best sports months of the year. Nothing beats October. March is not bad. March Madness, we're getting up to the NBA playoffs, NFL free agency, trade build-up, or draft build-up. And, oh, by the way, the MLB season begins this week. My predictions for who wins the American League, who wins the National League, and, of course, most importantly, who wins the World Series in October. All of that on tonight's night edition of Carving Up Live. You picked a good time to tune in. But first, the Golden State Warriors got absolutely shellacked tonight. 112-86 at the hands of the Miami Heat, who have not been playing good basketball. As a matter of fact, of course, all graphics provided by my man Alfred Parsar Jr. We can show you what the Miami Heat and the Golden State Warriors have been since the Jimmy Butler trade. I was sitting here thinking, man, and this is why I put prior to tonight in case there was a loss here, but the Warriors have the third best record in the league, seventh best offensive rating, second best defensive rating in the NBA since trading for Jimmy. The Heat, on the other hand, since that trade, 27th in terms of the record, 25th in offensive rating, 19th in terms of defensive rating. Yet, and still, Steph Curry, because of a patella contusion, I believe it was, that he suffered against the Toronto Raptors last Thursday, missed the last two games at Atlanta and then tonight at Miami. Golden State has gotten beaten both by two sub-500 Eastern Conference play-in teams. What does that say about the Golden State Warriors? It says that I think, and oddly, this ties in the take that I was going to have, because I'll be honest, I kind of assumed the Warriors were going to win tonight. Crazy me. Is that really the big mistake that the Miami Heat made in the Jimmy Butler ordeal, how it all played out, is there was a level of, okay, Jimmy Butler's a star, can be a superstar in a given night, particularly come playoff time. Playoff Jimmy, we all know that guy. And Eric Spoelstra, I think, is the best coach in basketball. All that combined, Bam Adebayo's excellent. That combined with just internal Heat culture can get us to the top. It got him to 2 finals in 4 years, so it's really hard to argue with the formula, and almost got him to another finals in 2022 if Jimmy had made a 3 against the Celtics at the end. So you can't really dispute the results. The only thing you can say is they didn't win a title. But in large part, the reason they didn't win a title is because they didn't have that extra piece. Like, if Jimmy Butler have said this, if he's your number 2 option, okay, now you got something really interesting. Well, he is the number 2 option in Golden State. The problem is the 1 option's out, and essentially what you're seeing right now in Golden State is what you saw in Miami for the last year or so, year and a half, really since their finals run in 23 with Jimmy Butler, where Jimmy Butler is your best player. He can be good offensively. Maybe he'll have the occasional great night. Draymond Green, we know the role he plays. He should be, at this point, Defensive Player of the Year as far as I'm concerned. But the other pieces have to fit around the dude, which is, of course, Steph Curry, a man I routinely call the baddest man in the game of basketball. So Steph's missed the last 2 games. He tried to play tonight. Actually, reports are saying that Steph could be back as soon as Friday's game against the Pelicans, which is the next time the Warriors play basketball. So long term, I'm not worried at all about Golden State. If these last 2 losses had come with Steph, I'd be concerned. But the sort of, I guess, silver lining for Golden State is Memphis is losing, or I think right now they're kind of in a dogfight with Utah, the worst team in the West. The Lakers, who we'll get to with Arthur later on the show, have not been playing good basketball at all, despite LeBron James coming back. So you have that aspect of it as well. Houston just lost. Denver's a weird team. Like, they don't have a bench. They don't play defense, but they've got the best player in the world. Like, OKC, y'all know my reservations about Shea, particularly come playoff time, but at the same time, Oklahoma City has more than earned the right to be the favorites out west in terms of what they do on the defensive end of the floor. Best team in the league in that regard. They've got it. That means that they've lapped the Western Conference in terms of getting the top seed in the West. So I think right now for Golden State, the question has to be how, and it's almost a luxury they don't have in some respects, is where do we want to be from a matchup perspective come playoff time? Because first and foremost, you want to avoid the play-in tournament because the LA Clippers and the Minnesota Timberwolves are absolutely right on your heels, right? The Minnesota Timberwolves have been playing good basketball since the All-Star break. Anthony Edwards has had the best year statistically of his career. Julius Randle seemed to fit in much better as time has gone on. Chris Finch has grown as a head coach. That's a team the 2 seed, be it Houston, the Lakers, Denver, they don't, especially Denver. I know Cat's not around this time. They don't want the Denver Nuggets in the first round. That's not an ideal matchup. The Clippers are pesky, but you can beat them. It's playoff hardened. And Kawhi, who knows what his injury history could, would look like come April once again. And then as far as the Clippers, I already mentioned. So I think for Golden State, the focus has to be these last few weeks of the regular season. Stave off the Clippers and the Timberwolves, get the 6th seed. Even if it doesn't mean a great matchup, get the 6th seed. You don't want to be in some do or die, win or go home games, which, by the way, the great aspect about missing the play-in tournament, you get essentially a week off of playing basketball. You either go Sunday to Saturday or Sunday to Sunday with no games. So you get a week off, which is good for older guys like Steph and Draymond and Jimmy Butler and guys like that. So that's gonna be critical for that group of veterans to be healthy. But I think at this point, what we are seeing, and this is why I talked about sort of veering into Steph a little bit, which is weird because he hasn't played the last 2 games, is I talked about before the season. I said, man, what's so frustrating about this team is I think the pieces kind of make sense around Steph and to a certain degree Draymond, and we know Kerr's a great coach, but Stephanie's that number 2 guy because everyone else in the NBA of Steph's level has that number 2 guy. Across the league, you can just look up and down the board. With that said, with this number 2 guy in the lineup, Steph's gone, they look like a lottery team. Let's keep it real. They look like a lottery team. They're not playing good defense. Offensively, they're tonight. They were. We could pull up their three-point statistics. They couldn't buy one. Moses Moody was 0 for, I believe, from 3-point range. The Warriors shot 9 for 38, 23% from 3-point range against a Miami Heat team that has not been playing good defense ever since Jimmy Butler was dealt. I say all that to say this: I don't think winning a title this year for Golden State would eclipse the 2022 title. Because looking back, does that championship, looking back, not look better by the day on Steph's resume? When you see what Klay Thompson is today, Andrew Wiggins had a good night. Shout out to him. Andrew Wiggins was really important to that 2022 title team. Andrew Wiggins is a number 3 option on a true title contender. He was the 2 in Golden State. Jordan Poole was relied upon. He's now the best player on arguably the worst team in basketball. Like, you look at that roster, it's like Otto Porter Jr., Nemanja Bjelica, Kevon Looney was your reliable big. It's like, okay, Steph got you to a title with that. He's not capable at this. He's not the player he was 3 years ago, but he can still be the best player on a title team. We saw it at the Olympics in the 2 most important games of the year. He can turn it on when he absolutely has to. With this cast of characters that fit really only around him, this is why I've made the case that if he were to pull this off, which I think he will, long as he's healthy, I think you have to move him past Magic Johnson. And we can get into this discussion. Should this come to pass? Because right now I got Magic above Steph. Magic's got more MVPs than Steph, more championships than Steph. And by the way, Magic went to 9 finals in 12 years, which is outstanding. But you have to put into context what Magic inherited and what Steph inherited. Steph inherited Honestly, in the state of California, Clippers North. That's what Steph Curry inherited. Bad ownership, coaches in and out of the franchise, horrible draft picks, bad trades. I mean, the only thing you could say about the Warriors is the fan base. That's it. Fan base always showed up at the old Oracle Arena, Roracle. There was a disastrous situation. And Magic Johnson inherited probably the greatest scorer of all time with the most unstoppable shot in the history of basketball, one Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It didn't, and by the way, Magic was great as a rookie. Didn't hurt to get that type of situation. Now, Magic, obviously, toward the end, from mid-'80s on, was obviously the driving force of that dynasty. But Kareem was still a monster. Kareem was still an MVP of the league at that time in his career. And so Steph Curry did not inherit that. Steph Curry helped to build something from nothing and turn it into a dynasty. Magic Johnson led a dynasty. He did not necessarily build it. That's the difference. And so, yeah, I think, especially given what the West looks like this year, it's going to be a dogfight to get to the finish. But I think right now what we're seeing with the Warriors is they really need to step back. I think it's pretty apparent at this point. Transitioning out of the NFL, because this, I don't want to say this came out of nowhere, because we had gotten the inklings that he had met with some teams, but seemingly just out of the blue, Russell Wilson signed with the New York Giants. I think it's a 1-year contract worth about, I think, something around $12 million a year, if we're getting that right. But Russell Wilson is a member of the New York Giants. So, listen, Russell's obviously a declined player at this stage in his career. I think the fact that obviously he was with my Steelers last year, there was a start with the deep ball, the moon ball was working with George Pickens. They went on a win streak and they were 10-3 at one point. I'm thinking, hey, I'm not saying we're the Super Bowl favorites. Kansas City's still there. Buffalo's excellent, but gosh darn, we match up well against the Ravens. We may have something. Maybe we could win a playoff game, maybe two, if we want to get really crazy. And then the offensive line started to get injured. George Pickens had injuries, and then defensive coordinator started to figure out Russ, and that was pretty much the end of the Russell Wilson experiment. And in Pittsburgh. So now he's a New York Giant. So listen, he's a good veteran presence in the locker room. I think he's done a good job at repairing his image over the course of the last couple of years. That year with Sean Payton, now with Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Now he's with Brian Daboll, who, let's keep it real. They're Brian Daboll, Joe Schoen. They're fighting for their jobs. The GM of the Giants, the head coach of the Giants, fighting for their jobs right now with the Giants. To me, the story is not Russell Wilson. To me, the story is not, at least the main story, is not Aaron Rodgers, and the fact that unless the Steelers maybe gain some self-respect in the next few weeks, as they're currently being held hostage by an old, washed, distracted quarterback, Aaron is probably going to be a Steeler, and we'll get to that later on the show. To me, the story is Shedeur Sanders. Because what you're seeing right now is, we know Cam Ward's going to go number one. Like that feels like a foregone conclusion. Whether the Titans will trade it, I've heard some rumblings about that. I would be really surprised. Tennessee needs a quarterback. Tennessee needs a reset at that position. Will Levis is obviously not it. He's bad. I was a Will Levis believer from the jump, and I don't even know who their backup is. It's not going to work. Their backup is Mason Rudolph, who's now back in Pittsburgh. So Cam Ward's probably going to go to the Tennessee Titans. Maybe Cleveland takes Shedeur Sanders, but I think, listen, Cleveland's going to be bad this year. Deshaun Watson's probably out for the year. If Deshaun Watson was starting, they were going to be probably even worse than what they were going to be. Deshaun has fell off a cliff since the off-field incidents. Cleveland, I think, is banking on the fact we're probably not going to be that good this year. Let's just get the best play in the draft. Let's get an Abdul Carter. Let's get a Travis Hunter. I feel like Abdul Carter to the Browns feels like a surefire fit there. You put him opposite Myles Garrett. That's a scary pass rush in Cleveland, Ohio. I bag on the Browns all the time. That would be special on both sides of the defensive line. But then you go down the NFL draft order. Okay, number 3 is the Giants. Well, now their quarterback room is Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, who they've signed in the last 24 hours, essentially, and then Tommy DeVito's still there. And listen, Tommy DeVito ain't that good. Certainly, his production does not meet his popularity in the state of New Jersey. At the same time, Giants fans seem to like him. He's at least a good third string. And so my guess is he probably still is. He'll probably be the emergency quarterback. Look down the list. Patriots 4, they have Drake May. Jaguars 5, they have Trevor Lawrence. Vegas Raiders are 6, they have Geno Smith. The Jets are at 7. Maybe the Jets take him. I think the Jets right now are kind of with Aaron Glenn, who I think if the ownership, Woody Johnson, allows Aaron Glenn to be Aaron Glenn, can really build a good culture there. I'm an Aaron Glenn believer. I think right now, year 1, let's set the culture. Justin Fields kind of the placeholder, kind of the bridge guy. Then we'll get our guy next year. And what's an excellent quarterback draft. Continue to look down. Carolina, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Bryce Young. Second half of the season, I heard y'all heard me talk about in the show. Liked what I saw from Bryce Young. down the list. Saints at 9, maybe. Again, cap situation. Maybe they take Shedeur Sanders. That's on the board. Bears at 10 have Caleb Williams. Niners at 11. Purdy, I feel like, is going to be the quarterback at least this year. We'll see if the contract stuff works out. Cowboys 12, they have Dak. Dolphins 13, they have Tua. Colts 14, they're going to roll out Anthony Richardson. Daniel Jones is going to battle that with him. Falcons 15, they have Penix. Cardinals have Kyler Murray. Bengals have Joe Burrow. Seattle has Sam Darnold. Keep looking down the list. Bucks have Baker Mayfield. Denver has Bo Nix. Chargers have Herbert. Packers have Jordan Love. Like, you keep looking down the list. I think it is very much on the board that we see, barring a trade. And what's weird, we haven't had one first-round trade thus far. I know we're still late March. We have about a month to go before round 1. But I think this situation could be similar to Will Levis. Now, Will Levis fell in the draft because, A, not accurate in college, made some awful decisions, in terms of reading defenses. He was not good at that whatsoever at Kentucky. He was an arm strength talent, and that was it. I was not a Will Levis believer. Will Levis also fell because he interviewed very poorly. From what I'm hearing, I don't think Shedeur is interviewing poorly. For the record, I think Aaron Rodgers, y'all hear me bag on Aaron Rodgers all the time. I think rightfully so, but the book on Aaron Rodgers by Ian O'Connor, who did a great job, some of the stuff that was getting said about Aaron was just, at least the way I interpret it, was, yeah, Aaron's confident in himself. Hey, Aaron's okay telling you what he's good at. Okay, good. Market yourself. Great. I have no problem with that. If that's the knock on Shedeur, I think it's a bad one. But at the same time, there is a level of, okay, he doesn't have the physical traits that Cam Ward has. He plays a little bit similar to Cam Ward. Cam Ward has had it by the numbers, a worse offensive line than Shedeur Sanders had. As questionable as that O-line was at Colorado. Big 12, if you look at the numbers, most of his good games were against bad Big 12 teams, Oklahoma State, etc. And so it's a little bit, again, I don't think it'll be this bad. But Zach Wilson, I remember when Zach Wilson was coming out of a BYU. I saw Zach Wilson play live at Tennessee a few years before he was drafted. I'm like, it's fine. I don't really see number 2 overall pick. I don't see that type of upside for this kid. Kind of feasted off of bad teams. BYU at that point, I believe, was still independent before they joined the Big 12. To a certain degree, that's what we saw with Colorado last year. Big 12 wasn't that good of a conference. Arizona State kind of got hot at the end of the year, but feasted on bad teams, middling teams in that conference. Whereas Cam Ward, ACC wasn't exactly world beaters. Cam Ward put up good numbers against some of the best ACC schools, such as Syracuse. He was good in those games. So I think it's not a good quarterback draft. We know this. I mean, the fact that Jalen Milroe is being discussed as a potential option for my Steelers, I don't trust it to develop quarterbacks as is. That's why I think the current regime probably isn't the best option moving forward. Jalen Milroe is not a first-round talent. Second round, maybe. There's a bit of a Jalen Hurts quality there. But Jalen Hurts was a second-round talent who was developed over the course of time. I felt pretty confident the Giants were going to take Shedeur. Now I think it's off the board. I think it has to be. I mean, unless you're going to cut Jameis and Tommy DeVito, that's one thing. Unless you're just going to cut Jameis, we'll see. But it's that Russell Wilson, the first thing I thought of was like, okay, they're not taking Shedeur. And maybe that's a smart move in the sense that, okay, we're going to trade down, get some draft capital. Again, the Giants, they're going to lose. Some of these guys are going to lose their jobs, so maybe this is the strategy. But we're not going to be that good this year. Similar to Cleveland's strategy, get our guy next year. We'll see. But the Russell Wilson move said far more to me than about Shedeur Sanders than it said about Russell, Aaron Rodgers, Jameis, any of those guys. I mean, you look down the list, a lot of these teams in the middle, which is around really where Shedeur should go in a good quarterback draft, mid to late first round, all those teams have their guys. I mean, there was a situation where some of these teams had injury-ravaged years, like Dallas, like San Francisco, like the Bengals, where their quarterbacks are more than competent, more than good enough to get the job done. Burrow's obviously on a different class than those other guys, but they're not quarterback needy. I mean, I could see the Saints potentially deciding to go after, to go after Shedeur, but Derek Carr is a pretty expensive backup, and the cap hit would not be ideal. So there you have it. Again, we're just getting started on Carving It Up Night Edition. Arthur Hurst is going to join us after the break. Be back in 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Going to talk March Madness, the Stephon Diggs to the Patriots deal, JuJu Watkins, devastating ACL injury, etc., etc. Cannot wait to get into it. Arthur Hurst is joining us in 1 minute on Carving Up Live Night Edition. Before you go to bed, stay tuned. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. So joining us now for the first time on this show is Gryd Network contributor Arthur Hurst. So before I even bring him on, I have to say this because I know he'd appreciate it. The 8 o'clock spot, which normally airs tonight every Tuesday, in this case can be pushed to tomorrow, to Wednesday night, I believe 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. So definitely stay tuned to that. It's our Gryd Network game show. He has built, whatever you want to call it, a sizable, big, massive, huge, go so far as to say gargantuan lead on the show. It's by a lot. So we're gonna bring him on. He's got every right to gloat. Bring on Arthur Hurst. But if we can get him on, hang on. Let's go ahead and bring Arthur Hurst on the show. Looks like we're dealing with some technical problems. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Get him on. Boom, there he is. Arthur Hurst is joining Carving Up Live. Arthur, my man, how are you doing?
What's going on, Bryson? How we doing, dog?
I'm doing well. I can't believe this is the first time bringing you on. I feel bad about that because you've been at the Gryd for now, almost a year at this point, but you've been an outstanding addition. So feel free to gloat about your 8 o'clock spot status because it is.
I'm going to stay humble.
You're up by a lot, Arthur.
Hey, I've always been taught to stay humble, and again, I said this on the last show, that it's always good going against people able to, iron sharpens iron. And, it just makes me better in my thoughts. It makes me better in my research and my information that I'm able to convey and being able to get my point across in a short amount of time. So I enjoy it and I love it.
It's a fun show. Everybody tune into the 8 o'clock spot. Usually I'm the host, Alfred Parsar Jr., my good friend who does our graphics here on Carving Up Live. Great guy, has been hosting in my absence. He's been doing an outstanding job, so shout out to him. Oh, yeah, Arthur, the main sort of attraction of sports is March Madness, at least in this month of the year. We all watch it. We all consume it. The ratings are always off the charts. And so it's funny, the major story, at least in the men's side of things, has been, you look at the Sweet 16, there are no Cinderellas, none. Like all the outside of Arkansas, pretty much all of the, double-digit seeds have been eliminated. And so what has been, we'll get to Duke in a second, your biggest surprise, or at least your biggest sleeper in this tournament, team that you were talking about, Duke. I think Florida is, as bad as I hate to say it as a Tennessee fan, Florida is playing as well as anybody in the country right now. Is there a sleeper team we're looking at and saying, keep your eye, because they can knock out one of these big powerhouse teams and win it all in 2025? Who are you looking at, Arthur?
It's funny. Purdue is very interesting to me. I watched them play live in Indianapolis for a classic tournament that they had. I watched them play against Texas A&M. They ended up losing to that team. Shout out to Wade Taylor, the fourth Q. That's family right there. So congratulations on a heck of a career at Texas A&M and a heck of a season. But I think the Purdue Boilermakers are very interesting. They're a sleeper team for sure, just because you can tell how much they miss Zach Edey, right? He was a guaranteed bucket, amazing defender. He was their entire offense, and it just looks like they haven't been able to get past that, which makes sense. He was your two-time Wooden Award winner and things of that nature. He was your number one option while he was there. So, of course, it's going to take time to be able to develop guys and get, past that. But as far as being able to you got guys on there. I'm trying to remember the guard's name. Braden Smith. Braden Smith is a great player, great guard. He's able to shoot well. He's very poised, right? He's able to keep the team calm and things of that nature. But you also got their big man, Trey Kaufman-Renn, who is not Zach Edey, but again, when you looking at the team and the way they run their offense is very similar to how they want to feed the big man. You let him cook and things of that nature. So if they are able to play defense well, if they're able to knock down shots, which that's for every single team, because you can always have a team that is their day and then it's not their day. But as long as they can hit shots and defend well without fouling, I think they'll be fine. I think that they're a team to watch out for. But also another team that is not a sleeper, but Auburn. But it's mainly because they're so old. They're basically a veteran team. I'm pretty sure. A lot of veterans. Yeah. I'm pretty sure the average age of their team is basically OKC. So think of OKC right now being in March Madness. No, I'm being dead ass serious. Like, I'm pretty sure
for real.
That's how old they are. So I wouldn't be surprised if Auburn were to win, but they're the same way. You just got to stay out of foul trouble. But yeah, man. But Duke is my clear-cut number one. It sucks because there are a few reasons why I think there aren't any Cinderella teams. For one, everybody wants to leave now, right? Transfer portal is opening up, NIL and things of that nature. Now everybody is leaving and going elsewhere. So you're not able to build culture. You're not able to build your teams, and that's one of the reasons why me, even though I'm perfectly okay with players getting paid, and I want that. The reason why I want the transfer portal to be how can I watched over a little bit better is just because I was the type of kid to where I can name you the starting five, the sixth, and the seventh man probably of every big team when I was younger. I'm an Ohio State Buckeye fan, so of course Ohio State, Duke, Kansas, North Carolina, Gonzaga. Shoot, who else was dominating when I was young? Basically the Blue Buds, right? I can name every single guy from them. Now it's just like, dang, I don't know. Of course, Cooper Flag, you know Cooper Flag, but other than that, it's like, dang, like who else am I watching out for? Because everybody's either one and done or everybody else is just leaving to go to another school. So I hope I hope that for the next few years, the transfer portal, all that gets tightened up. It does get better because I want to see dynasties built. You know what I'm saying? I still want to see very good collegiate basketball. And I know guys want to be one and dones, and that's the goal. And you should be able to go to the NBA and get paid immediately because you've played and you've earned that right. But me as a fan, I'm just like, dang, bro, like I would love to see Cooper Flag another year. That's just a dream because it's definitely not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? But it would be dope to see Cooper Flag again in a Duke Blue Devil uniform, especially I don't think they'll lose. But if they lose, then it's like, dang, like
a revenge tour.
A revenge tour for sure. You got to worry about him getting hurt. It's going to lose draft stock. You never know. Somebody else is going to come in next year from another school and have, potential. So just a lot of things to look at when it comes to collegiate sports.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, listen, I have been literally since the start of my show, 2019, pre-NIL, I have been, campaigning for guys to get their money, and there's no question that they've been getting that. I've also been of the mindset that there does have to be some level of watchdog's a bad way to put it, but and people being able to some policies put in place in order to watch over the transfer portal, right? Like it can't just necessarily be the wild west where guys are transferring midseason. Like I think midseason transfers should be taken out of the equation unless there's like a really bad instance going on. But yeah, you and I generally agree. Our guy Tim from Boston Sports Summit chimes in. So check out his show I believe it's every Wednesday night. He says, "Shout out to my Gators. Glad to see UConn go home crying." I think a lot of people were, Tim. Just remember, if you're not a Gator, you're Gator bait. Of course, you just had to listen. I want to combat that because, listen, my Vols are going to go to the Final Four. We got a good draw with this bracket. Kentucky scares me a little bit, but I think my Vols are going to the Final Four. Florida's rolling. I mean, they're playing. Duke is the best team. I think we generally agree on that, and we can sort of shift to them because again, Cooper Flag, everybody knows him. There's flag watch in the NBA. Who's going to tank? Who's going to get this kid? Not quite to the level there was with Wembanyama. Wemby was compared to LeBron in terms of hype and upside, but this kid has all the upside to be a superstar in the NBA. But you look down the list, you've got Con Knipple, who's a good player. You got some of these other freshmen. I looked at a mock draft today. 3 of the top 10 players were Duke guys, right? So like there's this, again, young players. I think Shire's done a really good job. Again, how do you follow Coach K? I mean, it's one of the most, how do you follow Nick Saban? How do you follow the late, great Pat Summitt? But I think he's done a good job. He's kind of come into his own as a coach. What do you think about Duke? Do you think it's a situation similar to UConn last year where I felt like it was almost inevitable UConn was good? Like, UConn was just better than everybody else last year. Do you feel like it's that similar, or do you think it's maybe a step below that, a third cousin of it?
The best part about Duke and UConn is that, yeah, they had their best players, but you had other guys who could just chime in. And then, so in the last game, right, Tyrese Proctor absolutely went off, had 25 in that game. Cooper Flag only had 19, right? And other guys had double figures, but it was Proctor who went off for them. So it's the best thing, especially in college, where if your best player does not have to be the number one player all the time, then that's going to be the problem. It's the same way with the NBA, right? If the Lakers, right? Let's take them last year. You had games where, yeah, LeBron hooped, yeah, AD hooped, Austin Reeves hooped, but Rui pitched in and had a game, right? Or somebody else pitches in. So that's what the great teams are, kind of built off of is, yeah, I got my 2, maybe 3 best players. But if one of my other guys can have a game where I'm not chilling, but I'm the one who looks like I'm pitching in, then that's where it is. And that's where it's like, oh shoot, they are deep. Oh, they do have bodies who can score. And then you get reminded, it's like, you got to remember, this dude was the thing back where he was. Whatever high school he was at, he was the shit. Whatever district, whatever city, he was that guy. So you got Proctor who's like, hey, remember, I can do this too. Yeah, he's big dog and he's the number one guy, but I can play too. So
there's a reason he's at Duke. I mean, there's a component of that as well, no question.
So it's fun, and I would say, UConn, they got to win. They got to win. I got no problem. I can easily see how you could compare the two. But in my opinion, they got to win, right? UConn won 2 in a row, and then they got bounced this year. But Duke, if they want to be at that level, you got to win one. And I believe they got the talent to win one, right? It's just a matter of, Cooper Flagg not reinvigorating any other injuries or things of that nature and just being able to stay healthy. But his upside and his dominance and the way he's just been able to he's played this year is pro type level, right? It's Kevin Durant when he was at Texas. It's Michael Beasley when he was at Kansas State, where, yeah, you're a freshman in college, but you hoop like you're a pro. The way you let the game come to you, you dictate the game. You don't get sped up. You like to get to your spots. And then once he goes pro, he's going to expand even more, but he's already a pro level type of player.
No question. I mean, there's a reason he was invited to Team USA, workouts and practices last year for that excellent Team USA team led by LeBron, Steph, and KD. So we knew this kid was going to be special since high school days. Again, there's certainly not from an athleticism perspective, but there's a bit of a Zion Williamson quality to it, right? Where it's like we see this kid coming out of college, coming out of high school, where it's like, oh my gosh, this guy may be something. And there's also there's an aspect of, like, we're not to get into this discussion, but I remember about a month ago, the whole face of the league thing. Like, Anthony Edwards says he doesn't want to be face of the league, and Jokic darn sure don't want to be face of the league. Wemby's not there quite yet. He's, knock on wood, praying for quick recovery for him. But there's like, okay, does the face of the league have to be an American? Well, that narrows it down. Tatum and Edwards, maybe Cooper Flagg is that guy. So, there's no pressure on this kid at all, but it's gonna be interesting to see where he goes. I mean, like, Wemby landed in the perfect situation, hoping Cooper Flagg does as well. Transition to the women's side of things. Go ahead.
It's just coincidental, isn't it? Wemby, San Antonio. It's just coincidence.
Yeah. To the women's side of things. JuJu Watkins is one of the great talents coming out of the women's game that we've seen in some time. And she is, we can show you, Alfred put together this graphic. We can show you her numbers. Averages 23, 6, and 3 with 2 steals per game, 1.8 blocks per game as a guard. And look at this right here, because this was remarkable. She recorded a 38-point, 11 rebound, 5 assists, and 8 block game against number 1 UCLA. That is unprecedented by any man or woman in the 21st century in college basketball. Certainly the story last year was Caitlin Clark and how she helped drive the ratings up for the women's game, and Caitlin is a special talent. I think it's on the board that JuJu potentially has the better upside. I mean, she's 19 years old. She's just kind of coming into her own. And for her to suffer this ACL last night, I mean, I literally got off work, looked at my phone, saw the video of her being carried off the court. It's like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. This is disastrous. She could potentially miss next year. Reaction to this, what do you think this does for the women's tournament? Because I think she was going to be with sort of Paige Beckers at UConn as like the side character, going to be the driving force. Do you think it's not a shot at Paige? My sister's a big fan of Paige. Is there an opportunity for maybe her to sort of seize the similar mantle? Because JuJu is unfortunately be out for a while. It's
so funny because after Sabrina, the conversation was Paige. Right, it was Paige Beckers, and I was like, hey, that's a Kobe student right there. So it was just like, oh yeah, Paige is about to run college, and then she gets hurt, and then out of nowhere comes Caitlin Clark, right? And then JuJu does her thing, and Paige has still done her thing, right? But it's like, but Paige ain't Caitlin Clark, you know what I'm saying? So it's just It's just one of those things where it's just like very unfortunate. I think easily Paige can take it back, but the funny thing about JuJu is this. And I've said this since her freshman year last year. I said if Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark is Magic versus Bird, then JuJu's Michael Jordan.
Wow. Okay. Go into this. I think I see where you're going. Go into this.
Remember how in the 80s, right? It was Magic and Bird. It was their league, right? They ran it and everything else.
This is
And
so
then,
interesting.
and you had this dude in Chicago with, teammates on coke and, doing this, that, and the third, averaging 37, winning dunk contests, things of that nature. And then we go to the Olympics and he lets everybody know, yo, thank y'all for your services. This is my league now.
Yep.
And I think that Caitlin Clark, the way she shaped basketball and just her outrageous shooting from wherever on the court, especially when she crossed that court, it was just like, oh my goodness, this girl is amazing, right? I get that. Angel Reese, same thing with her swagger, her attitude, the tenacity that she brings to basketball. I get that. But if we want to have that type of discussion where it was Bird versus Magic, where it was black versus white, you had you had these very two different, not just people, but just teams and cities and fans that were behind them. And like I said, you just got this freshman at USC that's hooping, that's number one, that's at least top 5 in scoring, right? I'm pretty sure she was number
She was
one.
number 2, yeah, when she got hurt. Yeah.
Okay, so she's hooping, she's like her stock, right? But her story and her everything is underneath this Magic versus Bird topic, but she's still cooking. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I believe she's Michael Jordan. Because it's like she's going to be like, okay, when I get to the league, cool, y'all, whatever. Yeah, y'all got Caitlin, Angel Reese. I'm sure is going to get better in her craft. You got Cameron Brink. You had a bunch of good ass girls that came out in last year's draft. Cool. None of them can do what I do. And I think that's what's going to be scary for the WNBA. Yeah, Caitlin Clark, she's going to sell out arenas, but JuJu is going to be, I think JuJu is just going to take it. She's not going to wait for it to get passed down to her. She's just going to take it. And she just hoops. And which is the most sad thing about all this is it's like you want to see her hoop, right? You don't want to see her go down. USC is a really good team, but she's the box office, right? And yeah, that one hurt to see her go down. So, but she's still able to, recover through all this, get better in her game. She still, if she takes her redshirt year, she'll come back in 26, 27, then she'll have 27, 28 to play. But
Yeah. We certainly haven't seen the last of her at the collegiate level. And I think, we talked about Paige. Like you mentioned that Paige had an ACL tear. I think it was an ACL tear in year 2 for her as well. And that's sort of what helped lead to the rise of Caitlin Clark. I love the Michael Jordan comparison. You know who, it's funny, the closest person in the women's game that I've seen to Michael Jordan is honestly my favorite women's player ever, outside of Candace Parker, because there's the Tennessee Vols, component to that. But favorite women's player ever to watch was Maya Moore.
Oh, gone too soon.
No question.
Left though, but
great player, exceptional human being, and this girl reminds me a lot of Maya Moore.
Absolutely,
like what she does on both ends of the floor, scoring with in every way, shape, and form you can think. I mean, again, I mentioned the game against UCLA. She had 8 blocks in that game, Arthur. Like that's, guards don't do that.
Yep.
And so, she's a special talent. Obviously, we're sending her the very best, and hopefully she recovers soon and gets back, fully healthy, even better, because she's got a very bright future ahead. Transitioning now to the Lakers. So you were on I remember this very distinctly. It's like middle of the night. Y'all think this is night. We had a late night into the wee hours of the morning IG live. It was me. It was you. It was Tim Barnard from Boston Sports Summit. Shout out to him. He's chiming in the comments here. And it was immediately after the Luka trade. It was at the Luka trade. I think it was that February 2nd. I think wee hours of February 2nd. And it was shocking. You certainly were in the minority, because there were a lot of folks that actually felt Dallas potentially won the trade with Kyrie and Anthony Davis. Maybe that could work. Kyrie has, again, since gotten hurt, and AD just came back from his injury. You were in the minority. It's like, what's that?
I think that's idiotic. I don't know why you would play AD, but
but listen, so you still feel that way. So so the Lakers are on this skid. They've lost 7 of 10. They just lost the Magic last night. LeBron's back. LeBron looks, I've never seen a dude just come back and look like hasn't missed a beat. But
Yeah,
Luka was inefficient last night. Luka forced shots. Luka is, I mean, we knew this to be a reality. He's probably the worst defensive player in the NBA. Listen, I was all for the trade that Dallas was out of their freaking minds for making it. But this is the downside of Luka. Talk about what you've seen from the Lakers. Are you concerned about them going into the playoffs in the Western Conference?
My biggest thing is his inefficiency, right? And I get it, though. You're trying to find who you are in this offense alongside LeBron James, alongside Austin Reeves. But I need his efficiency to be better. He settles for a whole lot of threes. But it's so funny, though, right? You go young with Luka, makes a lot of sense. He's your future, makes a lot of sense because LeBron and AD is getting old. And so you think about, okay, is Austin Reeves my future? You got Don Connect and all that stuff. But there are times Orlando proved it perfectly last night. There are times where it's like, dang, I wish we still had AD, because I know if we had AD, that guard would have a lot of thought about going into the paint. Because that fella, Spencer Dinwiddie, perfect quote on the podcast he was on. He said that I could play. I knew that if this dude gets by, I could be cool with letting him by because I got that guy in Anthony Davis, the unibrow, roaming, and he's going to send you a shot or he's going to make you alter something. It's one of those things where it's just like, dang, I still wish we had his presence. Jackson Hayes is really, he's athletic, younger. He's brought a very good defensive presence. I'm not going to lie. He's played very well, but he's not Anthony Davis, right? And not a lot of guys are Anthony Davis, a guy who moves and plays like a guard, a guy who has his defensive prowess on the perimeter and in the post. So I get that. But Luka, I just want him to be more efficient. I want him to take smarter shots. The turnovers we're going to have to cut down. And that's another unfortunate thing because Bron is another guy where it's like turnovers. That was one of the things that I had a problem with. Well, not a problem with, but I knew it was going to be an issue was him and Luka are going to combine for at least 6 to 8 turnovers a game. Just because they're ball dominant, the ball is going to be in their hands. They're going to be looking for the guys. They like to not force things, but hey, we're going to drive and kick, or we're going to do this. They're those type of guys to where it's like, I can do anything with the ball, right? And sometimes guys may not be in the right position, or they might be, the ball is too fast. You know what I'm saying? Like Luka is one of the guys who he likes to jump pass a whole lot. And every single time I see him jump, I'm like, oh, snap. Please find somebody, because if you come down, that's another turnover. Or if you throw it too high on somebody, that's going to be a turnover. So like you said, 3-7 in the last 10 games. A whole lot of that is because LeBron James was out for a period of time. And it just sucks because when they were rolling, then that's when his body was like, hey, dude, you're 40. Like, remember that, dude. You
reminders, yeah.
40 years old. So we're going to have to take a little bit of a break and let Luka and the rest of them take this. And so you see LeBron trying to find his footing back in this thing. They're still top 5. I'm pretty sure number 4 in the West. But Rui coming back, that's going to help, because and it was like, dang, he went down too. He was the first one that went down before Bron. So that was a scary thing to see. But health, as we all know, is going to carry into the playoffs. Am I worried about the Lakers? No, but
what's your ceiling for them? Like, I that's a dumb question. Their ceiling, I think they can win the championship. I think they have the personnel to do it. I think they have the 2 stars to be able to do it. Is there a matchup in the first round? I think right now they're the 4 seed. Which would have them playing Memphis. I would take the Lakers to use the Shannon Sharp quote, Lakers in 5. That would be a quick series. Is there a matchup you see in the first round or even beyond where I'm like, I want to avoid that as long as possible. I want to avoid that until the Western Conference Finals. Who do you look at and say, let's not see them until mid to late May?
It's very unfortunate that the West is so bundled up like this. I don't want them to play. I just don't.
Okay.
Denver is always going to be the team, because it's like, damn, dog, like this Nikola Jokic guy is good. Like,
he's really good. Yeah, he's pretty good at basketball.
Yeah, it's I get why people want to have these unsettling discussions about why he's the greatest big of all time. I understand it. It's wild,
Yeah,
I don't understand it. Denver, I don't want to play Denver because of Joker. Look, 7 games, and it's so funny because I try not to get caught in a moment. I try to look, you know what I'm saying? There are just teams to where it's like, okay, we're not worried about the regular season. We're worried about the playoffs. Boston Celtics is one of those teams to where it's like, I'm not really worried about what they do in the regular season. I want to see how they play in the playoffs. The big thing about them is that you don't want them to play down to the competition. You always want them to play up to where they are in their ceiling, which is we're defending national champions, and we're going to continue to play like we're defending national champions. The Lakers, I don't want them to fall to 6 because then you got to play Joker. Michael Porter Jr., he hits shots. Jamal Murray, he's hit 3 or 4 game-winning shots on the Lakers within
unbelievable.
Christian Braun, it's crazy how Christian Braun was coming off the bench last year doing what he was doing, dunking on people, and now he's out here still doing what he's doing as a starter, dunking on people. Russell Westbrook, that's going to be
that's what I worry about with Denver, Arthur. That's more than anything.
Oh, well, yeah,
because
understandably so. But he still provides. He's still Russ. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. It's funny you say that. Like it was so funny. The game my Warriors lost last Monday to Denver when they sat Jamal Murray, Jokic, and I think Michael Porter Jr. didn't play that game. And it was like, okay, Aaron Gordon's the best player, but I don't think Russell's certainly not a star anymore. But I don't know if any player in the NBA would, in a strange way, almost rather play with bench guys than Russ. Like it's almost like it relieves the pressure. Like no one's necessarily expecting, and I can just make everybody better. And Russ has done that, over the course of his career. He's just not that great of a fit on, certainly at this stage, with guys that are trying to get to the next level. And again, like you said, he's been a good boost off the bench. Sometimes starting some games. Playoff Russ is not. That's not who you're necessarily looking to to lead you. I think Russell's won 1 playoff series since Katie's departure. So, and again, he's not the guy anymore like he was then, but that's still a concern. But I get that from the matchup perspective. If you couldn't stop Jokic with AD, what that game? I think. Let me say this, Arthur, because we saw actually in the Olympics. I think it's on the board. LeBron James guards Nikola Jokic in some fourth quarters. I'm dead serious. I think LeBron may have to play the 5 in some instances because I don't.
Yeah.
Jackson Hayes is a great lob threat, and he has been good defensively. Nobody can stop Jokic. You can't stop great players. I think the Lakers' best overall defender is probably still LeBron at this point, and I think he would have to go on Jokic in the fourth quarter games, which maybe wears him down offensively. So I get why you say that.
But one of the things, though, one of the reasons why you can't stop Joker is because of his personnel. So last year, you have KCP, you had Michael Porter Jr., you had Christian Braun, you had Jamal Murray, you had Aaron Gordon, who was always in the dunker spot. Like the biggest thing about those teams is that they always move, right? Yeah. Is when you backdoor, that was one of my biggest problems with the Lakers was like, dang, like all these backdoor opportunities are open. And it's because you're so focused on Joker, which makes a ton of sense. But he's literally wanting you to do that. As long as you are focused on him, that gives everybody else an opportunity to hit the blind spot to where he's able to just get the ball in there where it needs to be. And there goes 2 points or there goes 3 points. And a rejuvenated LeBron James is an amazing LeBron James. We saw it in Cleveland when they had their trade getting Jordan Clarkson and all those guys. We saw it this year when they got Luka. He looks rejuvenated. He's getting down on defense. He's playing defense very well. But it's just one of those things to where it's like, again, he's 40. I don't want my 40-year-old guy to have to do that.
No.
You know what I mean? Austin Reeves, I would rather Bron be the number 3 guy. Austin Reeves, dude, you go do your thing. Luka, you go do your thing. I'm cool playing in this corner, just shooting it off the catch 3. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But it's one of those things to where it's like, if you put me in that position to where I gotta go, then it's just like, dang, I don't want to, but I have to because Luka's shooting inefficiently. AR is not knocking down shots. Rui's not playing very well. And we know that when it gets in the playoffs, the whistle is not going to be there. So all that foul baiting that you get away with in a Luka, in an Austin Reeves, you're not going to typically get that in the playoffs.
I'll say this because I was actually going to not take a shot at Luka, just kind of state the reality. I'll give him this compliment. he has been great in the playoffs. Like, I think he's second all-time in playoff points per game to Michael Jordan. Like, the guy his first playoff series against the Clippers in 2020 when he hit that buzzer beater, it's like, okay, he's not scared of the moment, and he can adapt to officiating that, he usually gets in the regular season. The problem is, and Denver can do this with Jamal Murray, every team in the Western Conference essentially can do this because they either have an athletic guard or an experienced guard, a great player. They're going to put him in the pick and roll relentlessly, Arthur. Like, that is going to be the game plan. That's what Boston did nonstop. The Warriors did it a few years ago when they faced him in the conference finals. Like, that's the book on how to beat a Luka Doncic basketball team, is absolutely wear him down defensively and then single cover him offensively and worry about the other threats. I think that's what most teams are going to do. They're going to put one guy in Luka. He gets what he gets. You hope he's inefficient. And then we're just going to absolutely wear him into the ground defensively. And so against the Rockets, I'm not a Rockets believer this season, but you get a guy like what's my man's name? Oh my gosh, the guard they drafted a few years ago. I'm forgetting his name now. Jalen Green. Get Jalen Green with him in the pick and roll, forget about it. Get Jamal Murray, Ja Morant, if healthy, Steph Curry. And look up and down the Western Conference. Jamal Murray, like that's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's a problem. So that's something I think the Lakers got to look out for moving forward. Transitioning now to the NFL. The Stephon Diggs news came in a couple of hours ago. What do you think about that? I think it's a good move for New England. 3 years, $69 million. I'm not sure the contract is structured to where they can maybe get out of it relatively soon, but the Patriots have spent a lot of money in free agency. Drake May's now got a real number one option now. Actually, go and put up this graphic, and then I'll toss it to you, Arthur. So his last healthy season, I put 2023. That's the last time Diggs played a full season. 107 catches, 1,100 yards, 11.1 yards per catch, 8 touchdowns. Pretty solid numbers for number one. No Patriots receiver has recorded similar numbers since Edelman in 2019. It feels like, I remember I was in high school in 2019. Like, what the heck? Like, so much has happened in that time. The Patriots have not had anything that even resembles a number one receiver. They haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver since Tom Brady left. And so now they're getting one in Stephon Diggs. What do you think about this fit for New England? Because I really like it.
They finally invested in their quarterback, and this is what they've been looking for. But it also helps because he's clear-cut number one. You get a new coach in Mike Vrabel, so it's like, okay, like I have my coach, I have my guy, I gave you a number one wide receiver. What else do you need? It's funny because when I saw the news, I was like, dang, Houston really did not bring him back. Like, it just confused me because I was just like, dang, like you let like Tank Dell, amazing. Nico Collins, amazing. Like, they're going to be fine for their future. But it was just like I just didn't get it. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing like letting go of Laramie Tunsil. Like, why?
The Tunsil one I didn't get at all. That was a weird move.
What are we doing? So, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So I'm happy for New England. They've without a doubt gotten better. He's going to open up a whole lot of options for that offense. He's going to make a whole lot of defense is key on him. The other thing that's going to be funny about it is the conversation after he got his way out of Buffalo was, can you still be that guy? Are you still that guy? You know what I'm saying? Yes, you're older and things of that nature, but can you still be that number one wide receiver? So we're going to see you in New England. We weren't able to see it last season. Injuries happened all throughout that team. So that I'm not holding that against him. You know what I'm saying? But in this one, if you stay healthy, and that's the biggest if, he stays healthy, I believe we're still going to see the Stephon Diggs of old. He's still there. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with Devontae Adams. Like, yeah, we're old. Hell, it's the same thing with Cooper Kupp. Yes, he's old. Yes, he's gotten injuries over the last season or two. But he's still Cooper Kupp. Unless he just all out breaks down, I'm still going to give the dude the benefit of the doubt that he can play this position at a high elite level. It just depends on situations. It depends on playbook. It depends on how he's used. It depends on if he stays healthy.
No question. I think what you're seeing, what New England's doing right now is what any half-decent franchise does with a rookie quarterback drafted in the first round or that pans out, where you see the Bears are going all in their offensive line, starting with getting Joe Thuney from the Kansas City Chiefs. You see what absolutely, him is no question. I mean, you see what the Commanders are doing, getting Debo, Laramie Tunsil. It's like they are, talking about Jerry Jones going all in. These dudes are going all in. The Patriots spending money defensively. Now they're getting Stephon Diggs. My man John Rivera, shout out to him from Fan Perspective. He says Diggs is a prima donna. Listen, he is, but there's also an aspect of, did we get better today as a football team? Does this help our quarterback grow? does Stephon Diggs, is he like in some ways like keeping the seat warm for us to draft our number one receiver, be it this year or next year? Who knows? Maybe I don't think it's necessarily going to fit in the receiver spot, number one receiver spot, but maybe a Travis Hunter should it be available at 3. And John mentioned Hunter to the Giants feels pretty likely at this point now with the Russell Wilson move. But what are you thinking?
The funny thing about prima donnas is that you look at who we call prima donnas, they're usually some of the best players in the game.
Yeah. Well, with the exception of George Pickens, yes.
Yeah. So it's just, yeah. So it's like, yeah, I'm a prima donna, but that's just because I know I'm the shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. Yeah, bro, throw me the ball. Like you talk over here. Yeah, we got Gabe Davis. Yeah, we got him. Bro, throw me the ball. I want my opportunities. AJ Brown in Philly. We saw that a little bit this year. Like, yo, just let me eat. Let me do what I do. Like,
yeah,
the fact that you're not throwing me the ball offends me. It irritates me. It makes me mad because, like, who the hell do y'all think I am? I'm one of the best at my position. Let me do what I do. I know this cat can't guard me, and if he think he can, I'm gonna show him that he can't. So, yeah, he's a prima donna, but he's one of the best at his position, and he just wants to show how great he is. It's not one of those things to where, like you said, in a George Pickens, to where I'm a prima donna, and I do have my moments where I show I'm nice, I show my potential, but most of the time I'm a bit of a hothead, right? I let my emotions a little bit too much. I'm not composed.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give the kid grace. He's young, man.
Listen, I get it.
Try to give young kids grace.
Well, if you were a Steelers fan, I could tell you Arthur Hurst, you would probably not be giving him this kind of pass. Listen, I saw Pickens, not to get off topic. I saw him play at Georgia. I thought he was a special talent. Still do think he's a special talent, but man, it is like, dude, reel it in to a certain degree. Like AJ Brown, like people talk, oh, Metcalf's a choir boy compared to this dude. Like Metcalf, again, sort of to your point, like prima donna. Oh, he complains about getting the ball. DK Metcalf's usually pretty good when the ball's in his hands. He's a menace to any defense in the NFL. So I think your point on Diggs is noted. And again,
how do you think that's going to bode in Pittsburgh with George? I think that's going to be very interesting with them too.
Let me say this, and because it's funny, we're actually transitioning now to the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers, but we can talk about the receiver room. I'm not convinced Pickens is a Steeler week 1. He may be. Maybe they want to test it out. Hey, let's have these like kind of, listen, DK Metcalf established himself as the number 1 receiver in the league. His numbers since coming in the league are similar to that of Randy Moss. He's no Randy Moss, obviously, but again, the numbers are similar. Is that necessarily the guy you want mentoring a guy like George Pickens, or is it just hey, we're just going to put the best players and let them make it happen? Listen, I liked the DK Metcalf trade because it finally showed the Steelers were spending money on offense. Thank God. It's about time they did. But at the same time, there is a level of, man, if one's not getting the ball, is the other going to be pissed? If Metcalf's getting the ball, is Pickens going to be losing it? I'm skeptical about the Steelers for a number of reasons, that being one of them. So
I understand. And then you throw Aaron in there.
That's what I was going to get to.
Yeah, go ahead and transition us.
No, it's just so the Russell Wilson move, I think all but seals it. It's remarkable that the Steelers last season looked at their quarterback situation because Fields started the first 6 games. I know you're a big Justin Fields guy. You and I, you were certainly more vocal than I about, hey, bro, you're 4-2, don't bench him. Russell came in, it worked, and then it didn't work. But it's amazing that the Steelers can see the end of last season, say, you know what? We had a guy Russell was once an excellent player, but he's not the same. He's washed, to use that term. We can see a quarterback who's washed, a little distracted, has some off-field interest. Nothing wrong with that. And they saw that and said, you know what we should do? We should get an older, more washed, more distracted quarterback. Makes perfect sense, Arthur. I mean, it really, when you look at the numbers, Aaron Rodgers, he's just been balling out since, oh crap, that's not good. Since 2022, Aaron at 223 pass yards per game, 56 touchdowns to 23 picks, completes 63% of his throws, pass rating of 90. He is, let me check, I believe that's 8 games below 500, so he doesn't win much. Hasn't won a playoff game since COVID, hasn't been a Pro Bowler since he claimed he was famously claimed he was immunized. So like he's not even close to the same player. He gives you even more of the distraction, and yet Mike Tomlin and the Steelers franchise is letting him hold them hostage. Because listen, let's get this on my chest, and I'll let you go. Because I get worked up about this. So you mean to tell me that all of what's been going on in Pittsburgh, everybody talks about, you need to get the quarterback. Well, in some respects, you kind of have to be bad enough to get the quarterback. Mason Rudolph is back. God bless Mason. He's been a really good backup in Pittsburgh for a long time. Just throw out Mason Rudolph. Let him be the starter for 17 games. Knock on wood, he stays healthy. Go 7-10. Maybe trade up a few spots. Get your guy. Get an Arch Manning. Get the kid at Penn State. Drew Aller. Whoever you like in this upcoming draft. Get that dude. Instead, you'll have Aaron Rodgers, who will continue to preserve the status quo. 9-8, 10-7. Maybe you're in the playoffs. Maybe you don't. If you're in the playoffs, you get waxed by Buffalo, Kansas City, or your Baltimore Ravens. And it's you're just on this treadmill, and it leaves me asking, not just from a culture standpoint, but from I should say from a winning standpoint, but from a culture standpoint, what is the standard that Mike Tomlin speaks of? This is the guy you want to be the face of it? So you tell me, Arthur, where am I wrong?
Nah, my thing is this. The typical Aaron Rodgers, well, he's already kind of doing it. But the antics, I just don't want to happen. I'm a huge fan of Mike Tomlin. I really, really am.
Sure.
Hasn't had a losing season. It's crazy. He's never won Coach of the Year.
Sure.
And I mean, just call it what it is. He's a black man in the NFL at the highest level, still coaching great. Still doing what he does. So I get, having Mason Rudolph in there, just tank for a quarterback. I absolutely understand that notion, but I honestly don't believe, no, I worded that wrong. I believe that his pride won't let that happen. Mike Tomlin will roll over, you know what I'm saying? Or retire before he lets management be like, yo, tank for a losing season. I'm not going to do that. What do I look like? You know what I'm saying? Because then that comes back to a thing of, again, black guy. So now everybody is really, really trying to question his coaching ability, because it's like, dang, like y'all tanking, y'all losing games. What the heck is going on? He's not going to get grace and be like, oh, this is what they're doing. They are literally losing on purpose to get the quarterback for the future. That's not going to be the narrative. Is going to be, oh, this dude, he can't do it. He can't do it anymore. The guys don't like him. This, that, and the third is happening. He's lost the locker room. Management, what are y'all doing? Y'all need to go ahead and let him go. Y'all got to get him out of here. Like, no, I'm not going to let y'all tell me to lose just to get, a quarterback for the future. I'm not going to do that. So, yeah, but my thing is, hopefully Aaron Rodgers has enough respect for Coach Tomlin to be like, I got you, man. Whatever you need me to do. You know what I'm saying? Similar to what Russell Wilson did. Hey, you know what? I'm a buy in as much as I possibly can. You know what I'm saying? If the wheels fall off, then the wheels fall off. But the mutual respect has to be there between the two.
That's true. And listen, you hit on a point. I know me and our guy Barry Grant Jr. We've talked about this before. We talked about not Tomlin, but other black coaches in the NFL, that if you do have that season, I mean, they tried to do it. They essentially kind of did do it to Flores in Miami, where if there's ever the point where it's, oh, we're gonna lose games on purpose, a guy like Flores, like, the hell we aren't. I know what happens to guys that look like me when that stuff happens, and we never get hired. So I totally get that perspective for Mike Tomlin. I think he has, though, built enough equity, be it with the Steelers, be it with other franchises. I've compared Mike Tomlin, the end of Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, because I think we are getting close to that, to the end of Andy Reid in Philadelphia, where it's undeniably great coach. Half the league would want to have them, but it's run its course. Andy's going to be successful post Philly. Philly's going to be successful post Andy, and they've both, Reid's won 3 Super Bowls. The Eagles have won 2. So, like, I think there's a similar outcome can happen, where Mike Tomlin could go to a franchise that desperately needs a culture change, and the Steelers can get a guy who, I saw this. The Steelers, since Big Ben retired, are 29th in touchdown passes. Since 2023, this will be their 3rd consecutive quarterback room where they don't have a returning member from the previous year. right? So there's not continuity. It doesn't feel like there's a plan in place. And so there's the aspect of, I 100% agree with you. The no losing season streak is impressive, but is that going to be what we are trying to achieve in bucking the long-term interest of the Pittsburgh Steelers? That to me is where I get really aggravated and agitated, especially when you consider, okay, we're going to maintain the status quo in addition to it's going to be something with this guy every week. We saw it with the Jets. We saw it at the end in Green Bay. It's something. I mean, you know this as well as anybody. It's something with Aaron every week.
Okay. What if that is the notion? What if that ends up happening? But y'all have better than the status quo. Y'all are more than 10-7. Y'all go 12-5.
What evidence do we have that that's going to be the case, Arthur?
Dude, I look, I get it. I trust me. I definitely get it. But that's what I'm saying. Like the respect has to be there. Mike Tomlin got to put his foot down and be like, yo, dog, like, are you on board or are you not? Because if you're not, I'm gonna need you to let me know so I can know how to move. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it's like, I feel like the respect has to be met early on. This isn't a thing where you get here and then we try to talk about respect and are we on the same page? No, we need to be on the same page this entire offseason. If we're not, then I got to move on to better places. That'll help me in this organization.
But could I make the case, though, why is Aaron not a Steeler today? Like all this going on, like the Russell Wilson move happened. So that, again, that's really the last option for Aaron is Pittsburgh. We thought Vegas coming in would be, and then they got Geno Smith, where it's so similar to the Jets. It's similar to the end in Green Bay whenever he was holding out for contracts, where it's, okay, I'm going to take you down to the buzzer. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire, and I am going to get exactly to the T what I want. And because, by the way, Aaron could get away with that because for a time he was absurdly great. And he's obviously not that anymore. He's still a good quarterback. He's still I'd say like about the 15th best quarterback in the NFL on his best day. But it's the juice is no longer worth the squeeze. And it's inconsistent with the message that Coach Tomlin preaches. Now, again, if you're right, if the respect does come, my respect for that coach will go to a whole new level. Because that will go down as Mike Tomlin was the guy that reeled in Aaron Rodgers. That will be like, oh my gosh, this dude's a miracle worker. And so, listen, we'll see how it plays out. Listen, how do you feel about last question? How do you feel about the Ravens this year?
It's just it sucks how that season ended, especially with one of the best tight ends in the game, Mark Andrews. Just it's so funny because I thought about it last week after not thinking about it at all since the game happened. I'm like, damn, this dude really had the ball in his hands backpedaling and he dropped it and we lose to the Bills. I'm like, golly, what a shame. But I'm extremely, this upcoming season is going to be interesting because it's the same thing with D-Hop. Is D-Hop still that guy? You know what I'm saying? When you put them in the room with Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers and they have the ability to learn, now D-Hop spreads out the offense even more to where Lamar can do a lot more. Derrick Henry can do a whole lot more, especially in the running game. I think that we can see another season where Lamar elevates as a passer. You know what I'm saying? I get that
progression. Yeah.
That's been the whole knock against him ever since he got drafted, but he has progressed as a passer as the years have gone on. And I believe this is another thing to where it's like, oh, he has another option out there, that a reliable option, not just an option. That this is one of the most reliable options that we've seen in the last decade plus. So I'm excited for Baltimore, man. I really am. I'm excited for them every single season. I just need them to remember what their true talents are: run the football and defense. And if you got a really good passing game, then use it, but don't let that be to your detriment.
Listen, Lamar has, up until this year, I remember doing a segment where I talked about the worst game, the worst point output for the Baltimore Ravens offensively was their playoff loss.
Yep.
And then that was kind of thing. That was not the case this year against Buffalo. And Lamar certainly played far from perfect. He was bad in the first half, the turnovers, and really rebounded in the second half. And it was Andrews had a fumble. Andrew dropped the 2-point conversion. Certainly don't want to hang it just on that one player. But I do think Lamar did take some steps in the right direction. We'll see how that continues to progress. But all I know is that you are a happy Ohio State fan that are defending college football national champions. And You looks like you're about to win a championship yourself in the 8 o'clock spot. So listen, we're lucky to have you on the Gryd Network. You've been a great teammate. You become a friend. Glad to have you on Carving Up Live. You are more than welcome anytime. And appreciate you, Arthur. Have a good one, my man.
Appreciate you, my man.
Yes, sir. Arthur Hurst, Carving Up Live. Fantastic job as always. No, I see what he's saying when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, where it's a matter of, okay, if this is because you look at Aaron Rodgers coaches, Mike McCarthy, Matt LaFleur, Robert Saleh, where it's, again, McCarthy was successful. I think LaFleur's really proven a lot to me over the last few years in terms of his coaching offensively. What he did with Malik Willis in the back row is as impressive as anything I've seen a coach do last season. And then Robert Saleh, who's an excellent defensive coordinator, not a very good head coach. There's a level of, okay, none of those guys are necessarily alpha dogs. Saleh was to a degree, but in general, he tended to, because of the power imbalance on the totem pole in the hierarchy, he fell below Rodgers. Does Tomlin step in and say, no, I'm the guy? Maybe, but recent history. Now, again, I'm not in the Steelers locker room. I'm not behind the scenes. But Antonio Brown, now some of these guys were producing. Antonio Brown's the best receiver in the game for a time. But Antonio Brown ran wild. Big Ben was not a saint off the field. He's since gotten better, but Santonio Holmes, not great off the field. Chase Claypool was a diva. George Pickens is, we talked about in this segment. You never know when he's gonna go off on some poor defensive back and try and like yank him by his face mask. But like that's just, and so if he hasn't set the standard for those guys, what makes you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be any different? Now again, maybe Tomlin has a level of reaching certain guys that I'm not aware of, but even still, it's for a year, 2 years. Aaron is still undeniably, best case scenario, the third best quarterback in the division. It's Lamar and Burrow kind of jockeying for that best spot, and then a big gap to Aaron Rodgers, and then an even bigger gap to whoever the heck Cleveland's going to throw out there in 2025. So I'm much more skeptical. I hope Arthur's right. Obviously, I'm always going to pull for my Steelers. Even if we sign Aaron, I'm pulling for the team. But I've just been, the thing that I think has surprised me the most is that Aaron Rodgers, because now we know Aaron's not the same player to move. We didn't necessarily know that going to the Jets. He had a down year in Green Bay in 2022. I thought he would be somewhere close to, not to the MVP guy, but like a top, like the 8th or 9th best quarterback. And again, he had the Achilles in 23. And then last year, the numbers were good. Most of those good games came in meaningless games at the end of the season when the Jets were out of playoff contention. And so now we know who Aaron is as a player. We've been know who Aaron was off the field. And yet the Steelers are just letting him hold them hostage. They haven't reportedly they've set a soft deadline. Okay. And he knows he can do it. He knows he can do it. I mean, I heard my man Colin Cowherd say, well, maybe he's waiting on the 49ers to see on the Brock Purdy negotiation go. Maybe, but I'm not certain. Now, Aaron in San Francisco would work, I think, for a year or two, but I don't know. Feels like the Steelers are kowtowing to Aaron, so we'll see. Be back in a minute on Carving Up Live. Again, shout out to Arthur Hurst, Gryd Network contributor. You can catch him on the 8 o'clock spot. Hopefully, we can get him set up with a podcast soon. But right now, he's on 8 o'clock spot. He is crushing the competition right now. So definitely check him out. That's going to be tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Be back in a minute on Carving Up Live for our final segment, where I predict who wins the World Series in 2025. Stay tuned for our night show. Welcome back to Carving Up. Welcome back to Carving Up. Let me pull up a comment I see here from my man John Rivera, Fan Perspective. I don't know if he's still in the chat, but I see what he's put here. He said the Steelers should trade Pickens and their first-round pick to Vegas and draft Shedeur Sanders. Pittsburgh will be set up for the future. I certainly would not be against that. Listen, I just spent the last segment not bagging on Shedeur, but basically saying, hey, his draft stock doesn't appear to be great, but given the value of what because again, so much talked about this many times. Talked about this with Sam Darnold and the success we saw him have last year in Minnesota after he was obviously a draft bust with the Jets, where, man, unless you're an Andrew Luck, like just a generational, all-time, once-in-a-lifetime type of player, LeBron with the Cavs, where you go matters, particularly NFL, where you go matters if you're a quarterback. Like, there's only so much you can overcome. And Shedeur Sanders to Pittsburgh, again, do I question their ability to develop quarterbacks? Yeah, that's why I wouldn't love a Jalen Milroe pick. At the same time, you go to a team that's got a good weapon. So if you move Pickens, well, you guys still got DK Metcalf. You still got Pat Freiermuth. You still have, again, Arthur Smith's an okay offensive coordinator. I don't think he's bad as some folks say. I don't think he's as good as some folks say. So solid OC. You've got the defense. Tomlin, again, the no losing streak, but again, he is obviously still a great coach. I just don't know if he's a great fit now for what the Steelers need to do. I would not be mad at that at all. Maybe they do try to get Shedeur Sanders. Maybe he does fall to Pittsburgh. So we'll see. I would not be against that in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. Because the thing is, like I said, go down the draft. So Tennessee, I think, is going to take Cam Ward. I don't think Tennessee's going to make any trades with anybody. Cleveland could take Shedeur. I think they're just going to go ahead and draft Abdul Carter. I think Abdul Carter is the best player in this year's draft. Go down to 3 at the Giants. I think they're officially out of the Shedeur sweepstakes now. Maybe the Giants trade down with somebody who wants Shedeur, but then you go to 4 Patriots, 5 Jaguars. Like, you go down the list, there's some teams like the Saints that could take him, but they're in such a spot. They need to figure out their cap. They need to figure out, I don't think the coaching staff, you got Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley on the same staff for the second time in 3 years. That is not going to work whatsoever. And so maybe this, by the way, sort of not countered what John's saying, but maybe add to it, they could still trade Pickens. It is not off the board that Shedeur falls to Pittsburgh. It's not off the board. We could see a Will Levis like drop again for different reasons than Levis, but a similar type of situation where it's like, wait, this guy was supposed to go like 4th overall to the Colts and he's drafted in the 2nd round. Again, it's a weak quarterback draft. Like, viewers don't buy him at all. Milroe is a project. He needs to go to a good spot to where he can develop. I like Riley Leonard with Notre Dame. He is not a first-round talent. So it's not a very good quarterback draft in that regard. It certainly doesn't even come close to last year. It does not come close to 2020. And so, 2020, literally all of the quarterbacks, the first 6 quarterbacks, all of them panned out to varying degrees, but none of them were busts. Who's the worst quarterback in that draft? Is it Tua? Who was it? It was Burrow, Herbert, Tua. I think it was Burrow, Tua, Herbert. And then I think it was someone else went. I know it was Jordan Love later in the first round, then Hurst went in the second round. I feel like I'm missing somebody out of that 2020 class. Maybe they're just not coming to mind off the top of my head. I know I loved Herbert in that draft. I liked him more than Burrow. I was wrong on that. Herbert's obviously been excellent. Burrow's been a superstar. Potentially some point next week. We were going to do a top 10 quarterbacks in the league segment today, but because of the Russell Wilson news and Stephon Diggs, Arthur come on the show, wanted to get some more stuff with him. Maybe postpone it to next week. Do a Bryson's Best 10, my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, potentially next week, so stay tuned for that. Before we get out of here, Major League Baseball begins this week, or at least the regular season begins this week. We've had spring training over the last month, and there's been a lot of predictions, particularly out of the American League, which is admittedly shallow with contenders. It's not, last year there was the same case. There was Kansas City had a legit shot to maybe win the American League. Like, if they had a slightly better offense, they could have beaten the Yankees in the division series. Nothing against Kansas City, but that was a young team. Bobby Witt's a superstar, but they just were not ready to take that step. Yet they were in the final 4 teams left in the American League. And so it's kind of the same case this year, where the Yankees, it feels like they're the favorites. The Vegas has them as the favorites to win the American League. I'm not entirely sure why. I'm not just saying this as a Sox fan. Okay, they lose Juan Soto. They add a bunch of kind of journeymen, Paul Goldschmidt. They retain Jazz Chisholm. It's like, okay, lineup's fine. Lineup's kind of what got them beat last year and the year before that, or a couple of years before that. Aaron Judge struggles in the playoffs. And the guy they can always rely on, Garrett Cole, is gone for the year with Tommy John. I am not a Yankees, even as weak as the American League is. My pick to win the AL East is the Baltimore Orioles. And to my Red Sox, listen, I think the number one thing Boston had to do this offseason was shore up that rotation. Well, they did it. They got Garrett Crochet from the Chicago White Sox. He's going to be their ace. You've got Tanner Houck. You added Walker Buehler from the Dodgers, which I've been a Walker Buehler fan for a while now. I'm a Tennessee fan. He comes from Vanderbilt, but I've been a Walker Buehler fan since he was in college. I remember he pitched a World Series game in exceptional fashion against my Sox in 2018. He won in 2020 with the Dodgers. Like, the guy is he was on a projection to be like one of the premier aces in baseball, and then injuries kind of got in the way of that. Still really good starter. So the rotation in Boston is really good. The top of the order with Duran, with Devers, you add Alex Bregman. Like, that's a real lineup. Trent Casas, again, is slowly developing. And so, listen, I'm just going to state my claim. The Boston Red Sox are winning the American League. Boom, said it. There you go. They'll lose to the Dodgers in the World Series. I don't know where the weakness is. Listen, I was talking to some of my buddies earlier at the Gryd Network earlier today. Mike Guido, Barry Grant Jr., big baseball fans, obviously. And I said, it's not like 2017 Warriors inevitable, but it's the National. And by the way, what makes it interesting is that the National League is better than the American League. If the Dodgers were the American League, forget about it. They're going to maybe sweep their way through the playoffs. But I'm not even kidding, before they get to the World Series. But because you have the Phillies, who are formidable, because you have the Mets, who got better adding Juan Soto, the Mets took the Dodgers deeper than the Yankees did in a 7-game series. The Padres had the Dodgers playing 2 elimination games. You worry about them. The Braves will be better. The Diamondbacks in their division. You worry about all those things. But, I mean, the top of the rotation is it's Snell, Yamamoto. You've got Dustin May. Ohtani may come back and pitch this year. Speaking of Ohtani, you've got the best 1, 2, 3, 4 long. There we go. There's the audio back. Apologize for that. Get that fixed. Sometimes our audio will go out from time to time. No, what I was saying is it's the best 1, 2, 3, 4 lineup in baseball, and it's not even close. Ohtani Betts, who's got a stomach issue, I think, right now, so prayers for him that he recovers. But you've got Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez. That's ridiculous. Listen, I'm not saying they won't be challenged. I think the Padres can give them problems. Diamondbacks within the division. The Phillies, I don't necessarily trust in the playoffs, and the Mets just don't have the rotation to compete with them again this year. We'll see if they do at the deadline. I don't know who beats this team. I really, really don't. So Dodgers win the World Series. I think they take out my Red Sox. Obviously, I'm hoping for a very different result. But listen, if the AL were as good as the NL, I think the Red Sox season, or realistic expectations would be, okay, maybe you can be the second wild card team, win a playoff series. That's kind of, I don't want to say it's the floor for Boston, but that'll kind of be where I'm like, okay, that's an improvement. 3 straight years of missed the playoffs, 3 straight years of 500 baseball, essentially. You took that next step. You got exceptionally better in the rotation. Folks, the AL is weak beyond weak. Kansas City's on the come up. I get it. But Cleveland, okay. Yankees undeniably got worse. The Orioles have had back-to-back playoff, clunkers. Even though I think the Orioles will win the division, will win the AL East this year. I'm calling it right now. Red Sox win the AL. Boom. Called it. Done. But I'm not taking us to win the World Series because the Dodgers are just on a different level than everybody else. All right, that is all the time we have for tonight. It's our night edition of Carving Up Live, so appreciate everybody tuning in as always. Be sure to catch us next week. It'll either be Monday, somewhere around that time. Here's all I know, though. I am excited about Friday because it is my Tennessee Volunteers in the men's basketball side of the bracket taking on them gosh darn Kentucky Wildcats. 2-seed Vols, 3-seed Wildcats. Sweet 16, Friday night. Oh, I can't wait for that one. Oh, I hate Kentucky. Kentucky scares me a little bit from a matchup perspective. We've struggled at times against Kentucky. Going with the Vols, I picked us to go to the Final Four before the tournament began. I am absolutely sticking to it. A couple wins away from that. 2 more wins away from a title. Duke's the favorite. They should be. They're my pick. Tennessee. against Kentucky Wildcats. And for the record, let's not shortchange the women on what they're doing their side of the bracket. Kim Caldwell's first year coaching of the Tennessee Volunteers women's basketball team. They got a Sweet 16 date against Texas, 1-seed Texas on Saturday afternoon in Birmingham. So that's going to be one to watch. That's going to be tough. Yeah, Texas is a 8.5-point favorite in that game. So listen, Tennessee women's going to have to put on a spectacular effort, get out in transition, run like crazy. That's what they do. But, man, Tennessee continues to be the everything school. Football goes to the college football playoff. Baseball's the national champions. I think swimming was the national champions. Men's and women's basketball in Sweet 16 after we got to the Elite Eight last year on the men's side of things. Tennessee's just kind of the everything school. What can I say? All right. Again, though, that I promise that's it. That's all the time. We'll see you guys next week, probably on a Monday. We'll see, give you more information as time goes on. But check out all of our stuff on Carving Up Live. Check out videos, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram, X. We'll be posting a ton of content over the next few days. Very excited about that. Another shout out to Arthur Hurst for joining the show today. And listen, very excited for what is to come from Carving Up Live. We got March Madness continues to roll on. Baseball starts. Draft is approaching. And them Golden State Warriors, not playing good basketball now. Fear not. Once the baddest man in the game of basketball returns, one Wardell Stephen Curry II, all will be right in the world. And the Warriors will continue to trudge on and win the 2025 NBA championship. All right. See you guys next week. Stay safe out there, everybody. God bless y'all. Peace out. Oh, and by the way, if you're on the East Coast, go to bed. Night-night. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Gryd Network.